Great. So indeed, it's 8 o'clock, so it's time for Selichot. I have the immense happiness and privilege to let you know that tonight we're going to hear from Bracha Laster, who has multiple talents. She is a gardener, researcher, author, and teacher. For 20 years, she was a reading teacher in rural Florida, the Appalachian region of Ohio, a small town in Massachusetts, and multiple secondary schools in Virginia. As a professor of education for several decades, she has primarily taught teachers to become reading specialists and served educators in multiple countries. She has published over 50 peer-reviewed journal articles or books chapters, but family, friends, and her beloved Fabrengen community are her primary focus. And with that, I have the great privilege to invite Bracha to teach us this evening.
Thank you so much. Very, very nice. I'm going to play some more music and be thinking about whether this melody for Darkekha is familiar to you.
Starts moving a little bit. That's it, beautiful, that's it.
So, by a show of hands, I'm curious, who knows that melody? All right. So we know that Darkekha is part of the Yom Kippur Erev service. And there are many melodies, just like for all kinds of our liturgy, but particularly Yom Kippur, we have many different wonderful melodies. But that melody always livened up Yom Kippur for me. And it's the one that I know well from my Havurah. And we think, John and I think, that it was introduced around the 1980s by Norma Brooks. And I finally got a call back from her about an hour ago. So I think it's true that she was the one who introduced it. But in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you the history of that melody. It's very lively. People pound their machzorim. And I'm hoping, as I've entitled this session, that all of us will get to dance to Darkekha. But what about the meaning? What does this actual content mean? And we know that it's part of a piyyut, one or two piyyut team that were written by Yossi ben Yossi, who lived in 6th century CE. When I looked up the word Darkekha in Sefaria, at first I got 0 hits, no reference to Darkekha. It took me about a week to realize I needed to type it in Hebrew. When I typed it in Hebrew, I got 2,963 texts and 247 source sheets. Well, that's because the word Darkekha, meaning in your way, following your way, pops up in a lot of places. Quite a few Psalms, in Joshua, and particularly in Exodus 33:13. And among the many commentators on that particular place, which is where we pretty much take our phrase for Yom Kippur, let me know your way, God, let me know your way, is what Moshe says right after the incident of the golden calf. So the answer, and this is where I would love Ramon to share some text so you see the text that we use for Yom Kippur. The answer to show me your way is typically the 13 attributes of mercy, one of which is in this particular piyyut, and it's arif apayim, slow to anger, but in this piyyut it says leharich apecha, slow to anger, having patience. It is translated in different ways. It was a great surprise to me, having sung this with large groups that come together for our high holidays, to find out that the melody of this piyyut comes from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He introduced it in Simchat Torah 1955, 5719. And I think it adds to our cross-denominational richness to know this, that we have borrowed from them, and here we are in this great, robust community online. The first stanza, you know, Darkekha, is sung and repeated many times. Then the second stanza, Lema Ancha Eloheinu Aseh, is typically said only once. And maybe that's because that stanza is about is something negative, and that people don't want to note that so much. Ami datenu dalim virekim, we are poor and empty. And furthermore, the history on this melody is that the Lubavitcher Rebbe introduced it at Simchat Torah, and then he sang it again on Purim of the same year. And when it came to the second part, the Lubavitcher Rebbe didn't even say the words. By the way, they tell the story that this melody was introduced in the Farbrengen of the Rebbe, and it's pretty ironic because that fellowship morphed into our own Farbrengen, spelled a little different, but a very broad, inclusive, and egalitarian Havurah celebrating its 50th anniversary. But enough talk. I have several clips of the music, and I wanted to give you the next one, so I think you have to stop sharing the screen. Thanks. The next one is a lovely melody sung by Eliezer Diamond, and it's in the Hadar repository of music. I'm going to go back a little bit. You can sing on Okay, notice how the ending part sounds a little different. And in fact, Eliezer Diamond is the only one on all these clips that sings all the way to the end of the page with a similar melody, a little bit different. The second paragraph, Ta'ale arucha le'ale nidaf, heal us, we who are like a driven leaf. It seems perfect to me for 2020. And that's why I think I chose this. And so I'm hoping that the melody itself is getting into your essence, and we're warming ourselves up to actually do some dancing. So this is a warm-up dance segment, a short segment. And as we warm up, please, pound your hand on the table. If you're still sitting, you can, sway. I happen to have a couple shakers around. You might have something like that. And so let's consider this our warm-up version of the Darkekha to the Hasidic melody. Let's see if I can get the right place. I think I'd better do it this way. Just have to get to the right place. Yay, you guys are really with it. So I'm going to get back to my session here. So I wanted to share a little bit more about the meaning and see if that resonates with you. The path. What is this path that we're asking God about? Is it just one path? It seems to me that our path towards God is different for each of us. We have our own path, but then even our community has our own path. And beyond the community, our larger Jewish people has its own path. Here we are being trans-denominational. And Americans and Argentinians and all peoples have their paths. Still trying to get back to see everybody. There we go. I don't know why it's doing that. We're in the plural in 2020, and that is a theme that I like to reinforce. All of the paths are plural. Being Jewish has many paths. Even over the course of one's own lifetime, I've seen my Jewish path change, meander, have a last year in malaise, achieve some highs, and all of it's worthwhile. I invite you to join the path as our tradition reemphasizes that we must be engaged in making the path our own. Remember, we've changed with the times. We were a people with a temple and sacrifices. Then we were transformed into a prayer and study-focused people, wrestling with Torah, commenting on Torah and Talmud perspectives over the centuries, each scholar or participant uncovering new understandings, using contemporary contexts in very positive ways of Torah study. Many have likened it, including one of my teachers, Rabbi Ora Weiss, to unwrapping or unraveling or dissecting an onion to see more and more layers. I'm indebted to Rabbi Weiss for her thoughts on restorative wisdom. And restorative is spelled with Torah capitalized in the middle of the word. And it's very significant. Restorative wisdom. including this important lens applicable to the Yomim Noraim, the high holidays. So let's look at just one phrase that she teaches. And it's from Vayikra, from Leviticus 23:27. Ve'i nitim et nafshotechem. Did I say it right? I got to get the Hebrew. Where is it? Ve'i nitem et nafshotechem. So what does it mean? It's talking about Yom Kippur, and it's saying that we should afflict our souls. At least that's been the traditional translation. But it happens that Rabbi Ora Weiss says, wait 1 minute, let's go look a little deeper, and let's see if that first word doesn't mean something even more deep. The nitem comes from ana, which is commonly understood to mean answer. She says that we should answer our souls, not afflict our souls. We should answer to ourselves. As we reflect on the year, we should focus not on a punitive afflicting, but a deepening answering to ourselves. We have to revisit our values, reflect on our behaviors, and consider how we shall go forward. I want to integrate the concept of answering ourselves with something else I've learned recently, and that comes with my appreciation to Rabbi Laura Bellows for conveying this story. And the story that was presented by Rabbi B'nai Lape of the Savara Institute talks about Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, a 17th century German rabbi, very famous for starting modern Orthodoxy. And he was really at the end of his life. And when he was at the end of his life, all of his disciples were around his bed. And they said, Rabbi, how can we help you? How can we comfort you? What do you need? And slowly the rabbi raised his head weakly, but he said in a strong voice, take me to Switzerland. But Rabbi, the disciple said, why? Why would you go to Switzerland at a day like this, at a time like this? It's such a hard trip. Why? Rabbi Shimshon replied, when I die and I go before the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and God says, Shimshon, hey Shimshon, have you seen my Alps? What will I say? So take me to Switzerland before I die. I must see God's Alps. That going forward, the going forward of the Alps, of seeing the Alps, of seeing everything around us, this is what the high holidays may mean for us this year, because we are in a very fragile place. So much sorrow, so much loss near and far, and also for some of us, the shocking awareness of finally noticing our privileges. What is the path forward? Is it to recognize the joys and discoveries of our blessings and our privileges? I ask you if you would mind writing in the chat a few of the things that you have learned during this very unusual 2020. I'm going to put one right now myself and invite you also to write in the chat something that you have learned. We'll read them in a few minutes. Surely Ramon's brilliant idea of leading this series by Zoom has been one of the benefits of this most strange time. Here we are getting to learn from people in Argentina, in Newton, Massachusetts, in Israel, from all over the place. Thank you, Ramon. We're taking advantage of this time for us to go deeper in our understandings, noticing and naming our privileges, being allies to those on the margins, and also singing and dancing our blessings forward. So yes, let's have a dance party. Remember that the correct words for any Jewish melody is la la la, yabba dabba da, or anything else in that vein. You don't have to say the words that are written in the book. If you would like to, please, that's fine. I would rather keep your pictures on the screen because I have a few people I've recruited who are the biggest dancers. And we'll try to put them near the top or something, or you could pin them. If you see someone who's a really good dancer, you could pin them. But what we're going to do is play a couple different clips of the Darkekha melody and let it rock, you know? But before we do, I suppose I should read some of these wonderful things that you've written. So many people. Where does it start? Wow. I have learned to deeply appreciate small pleasures. I've learned the challenge of isolation and loneliness for those without community. I've learned to prioritize. I've learned closeness even though I'm far away. I learned that there are many alternative ways to find joy. And there are joys in not driving so much. Whoever wrote that, you're in my heart, because I'm just with you on that. I have learned about all the lovely spots in my neighborhood to walk outside or to work outside. I've learned how I can manage to transcend the distance and aloneness through connecting with friends and colleagues via Zoom or some other platform. I've learned about being white. I've learned how important all our connections, from the relatives to the mail carrier who beams at me each morning. I have become deeply enthusiastic about Israeli dancing on Zoom. Yes, let's have a dance party. I've learned more people than I could have imagined seem not to care about the well-being of the larger body of people. I'm learning and relearning how to stay in an abundance mindset in the context of so much fear and scarcity. I've learned how to compassionately reach others while being physically separated. I've learned that as hard as it has been to be at home, I live in a bubble of privilege where few I know have become sick with COVID or lost a job or a business or gone hungry. Yes, and we reach out. So here we are. I'm going to first play this one because it's my favorite. And everyone can sing with this one.
Darkekha Eloheinu vayai bai l'ha'arichatecha la'arayim v'la'tovim v'hi tehilatecha. Darkekha Eloheinu vayai l'ha'arichatecha la'arayim v'la'tovim v'hi tehilatecha. Darkekha Eloheinu ayayay v'ha'arichatecha la'arayim v'la'tovim v'hi tehilatecha. Darkekha Eloheinu ayayay v'ha'arichatecha la'arayim v'la'tovim v'hi Tehilatecha. Darkekha Eloheinu, ay, Laha'arichatecha. La'arayim v'latovim, v'hi tehilatecha. Darkekha Eloheinu, ay, Laha'arichatecha. La'arayim v'latovim, v'hi tehilatecha. Darkekha Eloheinu, ay, Laha'arichatecha. La'arayim v'latovim, v'hi tehilatecha.
Yay. Thank you, John.
Bravo.
So that's our dance party, but you can keep dancing for as long as you want. And I don't know if there are any questions or any comments, but it's been a pleasure to be with you this evening. Back to you, Ramon.
So thank you so much, Bracha. What a ray of light and hope that we need so desperately. Everybody is thrilled. So am I. It was a great idea to invite you to teach us about Darkekha. I don't know of anyone that could have done it any better. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I also want to tell everyone that tomorrow is going to be a very special day. Many of you have heard that I dedicated this Slichot series to my rabbi and teacher, Rabbi Mordechai Edrei, who actually was born in Tangier, Morocco, and moved to Argentina, where he taught me many, many things, including Slichot. And tomorrow evening, we're going to have, I'm very, 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 very happy to tell you that I was able to pinpoint in North Carolina, Rabbi Ariel Ederi, his son, who's going to actually be teaching us Deret Ve'emunah. So it's out of program. I was supposed to teach something and I did a little bit of tzimtzum so he could come and teach us. And I hope you all come back to that. I also want to tell you that we have more than 390 registrations so far. And that and something that Bracha teaches me all the time is that we have to dream big. And when we do that, then everything comes together. So with those words, and thanking everyone for all this beautiful, beautiful poetry that you have written here, we wish you to have a Laila Tov, a good night, and hope to see you tomorrow. So Laila Tov, everybody. Good night.
Yasher Koach, Bracha. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yasher Koach. Thank you.
Bye.